All right, you guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be working on a coogi inspired newborn baby sweater. So part 2 is going to be in a different video that is going to be for the skirt. I also will be doing a tutorial for pants as well. So this is going to be a boys version and a girls version. So I will walk you through it and talk you through it for whichever version you'd like to do on your own. So the first things that we're going to need is our hook. I call it a needle sometimes just in case you get confused when I say your needle or your hook. You're going to need, and I am using a 4mm hook for a a 4-ply yarn. And this is the yarn that I'm going to be using. So I'm actually going to be using three different colors of yarn. So these are actually the same brand of yarn. I just have some silver in here, gray. And then I have this. I can't necessarily remember what brand of yarn this is. I think it's Caron or Red Heart. I can't really recall what this is. I've had it a while and I had a bunch of it. So I use it every now and then. I really love the color, the blends of blues that it has. So I thought this would go really nice with the pattern that it would consist of to be coogi inspired. So we're going to need yarn, a hook, we're going to need some measuring tape, and we're going to need some scissors, of course. And the first we're going to be starting with our back panel. And this is a very easy stitch that we're going to be using. It's called a wave stitch. It consists of half double crochets and slip stitches. So, for those who don't know, a slip stitch is an actual stitch. You can actually make something with just slip stitches. So it is something that, you know, that you will be learning along the way I teach, because I'm going to be teaching you different skills. So along the way, I'm going to be teaching you why we're doing something and why that needs to be used. So slip stitches and half double crochets, you see the effect that it has because the slip stitch is way shorter than a half double crochet. So we're just going to get started, and I'm going to go ahead and start with my color blue. Again, you can use whatever colors that you choose. Let me just pull some out. All right, so I have my first panel here, but I'm going to go ahead and start it with you guys. But let's just go over the measurements for the newborn size. So our first back panel, we're going to start with the back panel first. And our length that a newborn baby approximately would be 7 to 8 inches. 7 to 8 inch is long. So mine is at exactly 8 inches long. So that's how long you want to make yours if you're making a newborn size. So if you want to make a bigger size, all you have to do is look up the average, the average measurements for whatever size baby, 3 to 6 months, 8 to 12, even your own size for adult size. So you go by your measurements. You can even take your own measurements and do it that way as well. So that's how long you're going to make it. So a wave stitch consists of multiples of 5. So let's get started. So working multiples of 5, I'm going to start off with a chain of 41. So that's 40 plus 1. All right, so when we're working about single crochets or working in rows, we sometimes need a few extra stitches to begin that stitch. So I'm going to chain up 41, and I'm going to make a slip knot, and a slip knot is you're sticking your hook through, wrapping the yarn over and pulling it through that hole there. So there you have a slip knot. Now we're going to chain up 40 plus 1. We're going to chain up 41. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 8, 41 I have. So a tip and a trick that I like to use and stand by is if you're not sure how many chains you need or have, you can always either add extra chains. You can add extra chains or you know, make your tail a little longer. So that way, if you have too much or too little, you can add stitches with your tail, or you can take out the knot that you started in the beginning. It's easy to take out, you know, once you see it. I'm not going to take mine out, but if you don't have if you don't have enough stitches or if you have too many stitches, you can always take them out by untying the knot and just pulling it right through in there. If you have too many chains, then you could just take it out, or you can add one by using your tail. So sometimes I suggest to make your tail a little bit longer if you're not sure. So I chained up 41, and now I'm going to go into the second chain from the hook. We're not counting this as a chain. We're going to go into this one here with the slip stitch. And the slip stitch is just putting it right through that stitch and pulling up a loop. Pull up that loop and pull it right through that loop. And so we're going to do 4 more slip stitches in the next 4 chains. So that's 1 we have, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we have 5 slip stitches in the first 5 stitches. Now we're going to do 5 half double crochets in the next 5 stitches. So in the next stitch, which is here, we're going to do a half double crochet. A half double crochet is wrapped around your hook, going through that stitch, pulling up a loop, and wrapping it around and pulling through all 3 loops. That is a half double crochet. So we're going to do that 4 more times for a total of 5 half double crochets. So we're going to go into the next stitch and the same thing, half double crochet. So we have 3 half double crochets, 4 half double crochets, and 5 half double crochets. And this is what it looks like so far. So in the next 5 stitches, now we're going to do 5 slip stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to repeat this exact pattern until we reach the end. So we're going to start off with 5 slip stitches. You can start off honestly with any you like, but this is how we're going to work. We're going to start off with 5 slip stitches, 5 half double crochets, 5 slip stitches, 5 half double crochets, and continue until you reach the end. So I'm just going to go ahead and work the first row with you and continue with my 5 double crochets, All right, and now I'm reaching my last 5 half double crochets. 3, 4, and 5. So if you chained up exactly 41, you will have an equal amount of 5 each way. So this is what I have so far. This is our length. And we're just going to continue with a chain 1. Then you're going to turn your work. Now we're going to be working in back loops only from here. So any opposing stitch, which is we just finished off with a half double crochet. Now we're going to alternate and do slip stitches in the top 5 of our half double crochets. So we're going, after that chain 1, we turn our work. We're going to go right into the first stitch with a slip stitch. That's right here. We're going to go right into that stitch with a slip stitch. So that's the first slip stitch. In the back loops only, our second slip stitch. So I just use my finger just to guide me and just to keep it even to where my stitches are. So it's easy for me to go in. Oops, that was a slip stitch. Oh, yep, slip stitch. I'm right. That was my third slip stitch, our fourth, and 5 slip stitches across those 5 previous half double crochets from the previous row. So we have 2 rows. And on top of our slip stitches, we're going to do 5 half double crochets in the back loops only. So this is going to be our back loops. I highly suggest you do your slip stitches as loose as you can, not too loose, but as loose as you can, just so you can get into your slip stitches. Since a slip stitch is barely a stitch, it's kind of harder to work into that. But as long as you don't do it too tight, you'll be able to get into there. So that's my first half double crochet. I'm going into my next slip stitch with a half double crochet. So that's 2. We're going to do 3 more half double crochets on top of those slip stitches. So from here, it's not necessary to count each time 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because you know which stitch you have to go on top. But just make sure you're keeping count. If you need to use a stitch marker, use a stitch marker at the end of each row if you need to keep count of your rows, because we will be working differently in the 4th row. So, all right, 1 more half double crochet here, and now we're going to continue with our slip stitches in the top of the previous half double crochets. So I have 2, 3, 4, and 5 slip stitches in the back loops. This is what it looks like so far. So it's giving you that swirl, that wavy pattern. So, and on the top of those slip stitches, we're going to go ahead and do our half double crochets and the back loops only. And if you are semi-beginner, or you need to keep track of your stitches, I do suggest to count, because sometimes when you're working with slip stitches, again, it's kind of hard to tell it's a stitch, so you might skip over or lose count. Just make sure you're counting. Make sure you have the same amount of stitches each row that you do. So now I'm going to, I did the wrong one. Going to go into my half double crochets from the previous row with 5 slip stitches in each stitch. 3, 4, and 5. 5 half double crochets on top of those slip stitches. 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I've reached my last 5 slip stitches to go into with 5 half double crochets. You just work right into those back loops. It might be a little tricky to see your last stitch there, but this is what mine looks like. So I'm just going to pull that loop up of it and go right into it with the half double crochet. All right, and this is what it looks like so far. All right, now we're going to go ahead and chain 1. We're working on our 3rd row now. So we're going to chain 1 and turn our work, and we're going to do the same exact thing, alternate stitches. So I just worked my last half double crochets in the previous row. I'm going to go on top of these 5 stitches with 5 slip stitches. So we're going to go ahead and work into that first stitch there with a slip stitch. I just want to show you because sometimes it's tricky for people to tell which stitch to go into, and that's where they start to lose count. That's why I said, you know, use a stitch marker if it's easy for you to keep track of your rows. Okay, so and there I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slip stitches in the first 5 half double crochets from the previous row. And I'm going to go ahead and do my 5 half double crochets. All right, now I'm reaching my last 5 half double crochets for my 3rd row. So once we reach the 4th row, we'll be doing something a little bit different. Bear with me on this stitch here. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so we're going to chain 1. This is what we have, our nice weave pattern going on there. All right, so we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and on the 4th row. So we're going to be working every 4th row of this same pattern. So instead of alternating rows, we're going to go ahead and do the same stitch from the previous row. So that means if I have I have a half double crochet 5 from the previous row here. So after I chain 1, I'm going to go ahead and go into my first stitch here with a half double crochet in another half double crochet. Remember, we're working in back loops only. Just sometimes when I start my first stitch, I just go ahead and go into the whole stitch, just so I can be able to tell what I'm working into. It won't make a difference, but that's our second half double crochet, 3, 4, and 5 half double crochets across those previous half double crochets from the previous row. And we're going to do the same thing with our slip stitches. So we're going to go ahead and do 5 slip stitches across those 5 previous slip stitches from the previous row. All right, and another half double crochets on top of those half double crochets. And another 5 slip stitches on top of those previous slip stitches. 5 half double crochets. 5 slip stitches. I just finished 5 half double crochets and I'm working on my last 5 slip stitches. All right, and that is 4 rows. So that is how we're going to continue with our wave stitch until we reach our width, which is for newborn size. Our width is going to be from 8 to 9 inches. Mine is pretty much at 9 inches. So for the average, newborn size circumference for the chest is 14 to 16. So since this is just a back panel, that's why we're working with 8 inches, 8 to 9 inches. So I'm just gonna make it a little bit bigger than it's supposed to be. But I always like to end off with a 4th row when I'm ending mine. You don't necessarily have to, but that's just the way I do it. So once I add that 4th row in, it adds a little, extra inch, but that's just fine. Babies grow, of course. But so once you reach, that width or whatever width or size that you want to make, all you have to do is just measure it again. So once you reach there, so again, you're going to be working every 4 rows. So every 4 rows, you're going to be doing the exact same thing. So each stitch on top of each other. So I would suggest to use a stitch marker if you're having trouble counting rows or how many rows you're having. And another trick that you can also do is like do 3 rows of the same color, and for your 4th row you can go ahead and alternate your colors. So I would like alternate the 4th row and make it a different color, and then I'll switch it. So I'll get into switching our yarn soon when we change it. So I'll go ahead and just show you that, and then you guys can meet me once you reach your width, your desired width, and then we'll go ahead and continue from there. But I'm just going to go ahead and show you how I change my color. Now I go ahead and just chain off 2. I go ahead and chain 2, and I cut it off because in the end I don't want to be tying in ends the whole time, especially if I'm continuously changing colors. So I just go ahead and chain 2 and just pull that in, and just go ahead and stick my needle back in there, and then I'm just gonna grab my new color and twist it on in there. I just go ahead and tie a knot. I'll pull it in like this, and I'll just wrap my end tail in, like I'll just pull it in. Where is it? Just pull it in that hole to make it basically a slip knot in there. And then I just tie it together with the remaining yarn, with my previous yarn. And I just tie it, and then I go back and make sure you go back in that same stitch, because sometimes you can't see the stitch when all that is in there. I just go back in there, I chain my 1 and I turn my work and I continue. I just tuck it as I go. So this is going to be my 5th row because we just did my 4th row. This is going to be our 5th row. Our 5th row, we're going to do the exact same thing we did for our first 3 rows, which is alternating. So right here I have 5 slip stitches. I'm going to go ahead and work 5 half double crochets on top of those. So my first half double crochet, I'm just going to go into that first space where I change my yarn and continue with my half double crochets on top of those slip stitches, and we're still going to be working the back loops only for the entire thing. So again, I'm going to finish off this last row with you guys, and then you can go ahead and continue on with the width that you would like to do. And this is what your piece should look like. Change color, you can use the same colors, whatever you desire. So I will meet you back once you reach the width that you are making. Okay, and this is what your panel should look like. So I usually work in panels most of the time. Most of my projects will be in panels. So we will be connecting using a sewing needle or using our yarn, our needle technique to sew our pieces together. So this is our first panel. We started with our back panel. So our back panel is going to be the same thing for our 2 front panels, but it's just going to be split in half. So for whatever width you did for your back panel, which would be about 8 inches for a newborn size, or whatever width you have for your size that you're making, you just split that in half and make your 2 panels the same width. So it's the same exact thing. You start off with 41 stitches, so you'll be making 3 panels. So you have a back panel and 2 side panels. So this is your back panel and these are going to be your side panels. So my side panel is about 4.5. It's a good 4.5. Yep, it's about exactly 4 inches. So my back is about 8.5, and that's just fine if it's not exactly. It doesn't need to be exactly. So you're just making 2 front panels and you're making 1 back panel. Now, if you are making a skirt, this is going to be the exact same thing. So if you're making a skirt for this set, you want to go ahead and do 3 of these panels because it's going to be the exact same thing. The measurements are the same from the shoulder to the waist, from the waist to about the ankle is the same amount of inches. So you're going to go ahead and make 3 of these panels. That's a chain of 41 or whatever the size that you're doing. So you're going to do the exact same thing if you're making a skirt. So you're making 3 panels again. And same thing, and I will show you how I make the edging and the rimming of the skirt after that's done. But we're going to go ahead and finish. So those are your front panels, and we're also making sleeves. So for your sleeves, we're going to go ahead and chain up 30. Okay, you need 30 chains to make your sleeve. The sleeve is going to be this way, and this is how we're going to connect it. You see how that comes together? So this is your sleeve, because we will be making an edging too. So we will be making a cuff. So we're making our sleeve just a little bit shorter than the average size that it should be, because we're going to add a rim. So that is a chain up of 30 plus 1. So you're going to chain up 31 and do the exact same pattern. So every 4 rows, you're going to work that same, you're going to alternate your stitches. So that's the same exact thing. It doesn't matter whatever colors you alternate in, you change up, doesn't matter how you put it. Everything is the same. So you're going to make 2 of these. These are going to be your 2 sleeves. So I have 2 of these for the sleeves. And this is how your jacket is going to connect. And your sweater, your jacket is going to connect just like that. So this is what mine look like. This is what mine looks like. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how I connect each one after that.